Officials from the National Resistance Movement, NRM, led by the Secretary General Richard Odwong, appeared before the Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee, chaired by Bukoli North Member Parliament, Stephen Mugabe, to give their submissions on the now controversial Lumo Bill.
We know there are many other political parties that equally so have members represented in Parliament.
In their submission, the NRM party vehemently opposed the bill, citing concern that may undermine the party's authority on their members of Parliament.
And it is in our interest that we have opposition which is organized enough to challenge our activities of governance. In a way, we think that it's better to deal with an organized opposition,
because every party came there with their views. So at this moment, to purport to box them into one corner and have one view may be a little difficult.
We are inclined to suggest and propose that the law remain as is on that point.
The NRM also argues that there is no need for all opposition parties to share the budget of the Leader of Opposition, since there is already a special budget for all political parties depending on their numerical strength in Parliament.
Again, we go back to the fact that this is an office and the budgeting is done for the office. The budgeting is not done for the party or for the individual that is in the office. It is for the office.
Where the money goes to Electoral Commission, money is given to parties in numerical strength. And therefore, if there was any feeling of parties getting that money, it is being catered for under that legal regime.
The NRM, however, supports Clause 4C of the bill, where the Leader of Opposition will be required to consult the other opposition political parties before appointing their members to serve on the leadership of the standing committees of Parliament.
The proposed law undermines the autonomy of opposition political parties, thereby weakening constitutional checks and balances.
The National Unity Platform also appeared before the committee and rejected the bill, arguing that, if passed, will make the ruling party compromise opposition members of Parliament to vote for the Leader of Opposition of their choice.
There is a likelihood that opposition MPs may be bribed or compromised or unduly influenced by government to vote a law agreeable to the ruling party. We all are in Uganda. We are not from Mars, Honorable Chair, and we know what has been happening in this country. There have been several reports of MPs being compromised to pass controversial laws and proposals by the ruling party.
This generated a serious debate in the committee.
When put on record, compromises the integrity not only of the House generally, but especially the members of opposition, whom we have always held in high esteem, and without any possibility of being bribed because they represent decorum.
I will tell you that the 5 million bill to members of Parliament was known by everybody in the removal of term limits. Even in this very Parliament, there has been the 40 million that we had recognition of. Members of Parliament were bribed with 40 million shillings.
The National Unity Platform also questioned why Member of Parliament Richard Lumu was granted leave from Gulu, where only issues of northern Uganda were supposed to be.
We were in Parliament this entire week. I'm saying we because me and you and our viewers, because we kept taking you there for what was happening. This bill was mooted while Parliament was sitting for its regional sittings, and particularly in Gulu, where Mr. Richard Lumu are seeking to amend Section 8 of the Principal Act to allow opposition members of Parliament to elect the opposition leader, to elect the leader of opposition in Parliament, but also a raft of other, ideas in his bill, talking about, for example, securing the Deputy Speaker's position for the opposition and a lot more. But for all those other political parties that have existed or that have come before the Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee, they've clearly come out, stand and said, this is not welcome. It is going to weaken the opposition. Actually, the National Resistance Movement Secretary General said we need a strong opposition, quote unquote, and we cannot allow such a bill to be coming through. Not only the political parties, but also the Law Development Council did dismiss this controversial amendment, warning that if it is passed into law, it would undermine the multi-party system. At its core, the Administration of Parliament Amendment Act will be looking at a number of amendments that I talked about a little bit earlier. We're going to be munching on this conversation, but I know, yes, that many of you are still thinking through about the impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua in Kenya by Senate. Officially, probably he will be able to appeal that particular one. This very week, we've also had a lot of allegations over issues of quote-unquote forced plea, guilt pleas being taken. There were those allegations coming through from the National Unity Platform against Honorable Minister Balaam Barugahara, who said he dismissed and said it was simply blackmail. But we'll be getting back to that conversation. Let's stick with this one coming in from Parliament. Let me give you a sneak peek into my guests because one of them is not yet here. But ladies first, unless when there is danger. That is one thing I always stay with. Charity Ayimbisiwe, it's Kalebo.
Oh, yes.
It's been, yeah, you were waiting for that one. It's been a while. A very good morning to you, and thank you so much for always coming through.
Good morning, Mildred. Good morning, our viewers, and good morning to my fellow panelists.
A good morning to you, and thank you so much for coming through. We didn't have a dress code, really, but the two guests decided to wear some red or maroon because they knew we were discussing people power. I don't know, something like that. But Mr. Derek Wandera, a very good morning to you, and thank you for coming through.
Thank you, Mildred. Thank you for tagging me to Noop.
I said maroon. I didn't say red.
I am happy to say I'm happy to be here. Thanks for viewers for following us and always being in touch. But also thank you to my panelists for showing up.
Okay, thank you so much. Alex Ateide, our Editors Guild, we've been discussing here what we need to do and how much more we need to up it because, yes, for journalism fraternity to flourish, an Editors Guild will be a very, very good and important aspect. And also, I did attend the Dismisinformation campaign that was launched right here at Next Media. Alex, good morning to you, and a pleasure having you and Doris having you.
Good morning, Mildred, the viewers, the panelists, and thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to come back here the day after we launched the Dismiss
Information.
Fake
okay,
news.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We have free breakfast, by the way, from Kenneth Anderson Lukwago. I'm seeing his empty chair, but immediately he comes here. That is the rule of this particular place. But anyway, we'll be getting away from that and starting straight into the conversation. The Richard Lumu bill seems to stir a lot of controversy with regard to its weight on multi-party dispensation, but also the rights of political parties, especially like it has been in the past that a majority political party will be able to lead opposition and they will have the leeway to be able to choose a shadow cabinet and put up their manifesto, which the bill seems to want to, be able to change, because he is saying give rights to every member of parliament in the opposition who is existent, let them vote. Don't leave it to only one particular political party because it comes to lead all the other political parties. And Alex, I would like to definitely start off with you on this one. Is it that what is very unpalatable in the Lumu bill that literally all the political parties that have come through, UPC, DP, NRM, National Unity Platform, all of them have said, no, we do not need this bill?
Thank you. I previously said that the timing of the bill, even on the details, it was always going to be suspicious. But be that as it may, the Richard Lumu bill is very dangerous to the health of the spirit of competition in a multi-party dispensation. Why? Already, when you look at our political landscape, the opposition already faces several hurdles. They are outnumbered, and they lack cohesion. Even within the political parties themselves, you look at FDC, you look at the majority party in parliament, NUP, they lack cohesion because of interference, backdoor in their activities. Now, if you introduce some of the proposals in the in the removed bill. One, that a leader of opposition should be voted.
Yes.
Number two, that the shadow cabinet should be approved by the
opposition members of parliament.
Those are the two actually. Those are the two problematic proposals. How sure are you that we shall not suffer even more interference in the activities of the opposition? So basically, I think everybody sees that these proposals, apart from the intentions and the timing being very bad, but they are very dangerous to the already fragmented space in which our opposition operates. And I think that's why, of course, the NRM has the luxury of saying, no, this, the bill, the way we are, would actually would benefit the NRM because they already have the numbers, they already have the apparatus to interfere, to influence, to influence activities of the opposition. But now they have even the luxury of saying, no, we don't want to deal with this because the proposals are actually not very good for the opposition.
Okay, thank you very much. And while Alex was making his deliberations, our supplier of breakfast for today did arrive, the person who arrives the latest on the show. But anyway, that's just tongue-in-cheek. Allow me welcome Kenneth Anderson Lukwago, who has also joined us.
Good morning to you, Mildred, and colleagues who are here. Nice joining you on this panel.
A pleasure having you as well, Kenneth. Let me come to you, Derek. Looking at proposals, for example, what Alex just talked about, which is, I think, is section 11, that the members of opposition can be able to choose, the members of the opposition can be able to vet the shadow cabinet ministers as opposed to being cherry-picked. Secondly, he will say that if you're the largest opposition political party, present 3 people, let us choose from those. And when you are the LOP, you cease to be the member of that largest opposition political party, sort of representing some bit of neutrality. But also it means that then you can literally be impeached by the very members that vested the power in you by a vote. Why is this very hard? Why would it be detrimental to multi-party democracy, as many have said?
Mildred, we were here discussing this bill, this proposal, when it just first came out. And I remember telling you that there was nothing more manyanga, quote unquote, in Gulu than this thing. And I told you, and I believe, this was a tantrum. It's not a proposal, it's a tantrum. It's a quarrel of an MP who felt he should have been consulted. Maybe to just help our viewers to understand where this is coming from, where these sentiments are coming from and the wrong timing, is that Parliament proposes to have regional sittings where they say, the leadership of Parliament says that we are going to go to regional sittings to listen to the issues in those regions, have time to debate them in the context of their setting, have explicit time given to the issues of that region during those sittings, and then the opposition comes out and says, well, we do not see any kind of sense in this, because even when we are in Kampala, we discussed those matters and they never are addressed. So it is a waste of taxpayers' money for us to travel to whichever regions they are going to sit to discuss issues that we've been discussing here in Parliament in Kampala. Donkey years, for instance, even the issues that we discuss within Kampala the parliament, which is situated in Kampala, have never been worked on, for instance, the bad roads. So it's about implementation and not even where we discuss from as parliament. And that's coming from the opposition. So I think the leader of opposition meets with a shadow cabinet, and they propose that we are not going there. But then the larger members, elements of the larger opposition are thinking we should have sat a caucus, the opposition caucus, not just the cabinet. And they feel they needed to have been consulted before this was arrived at. And that's where we are coming from, to say that now these quarrels are coming in because of something that some of the members of the large opposition leadership feel they were never consulted and they needed to be involved in the decision making.
That's why you refer to it as simply a tantrum.
For me, I feel this was a tantrum. It was never something that is going to add salt to the governance of this country, that's going to add any skill or even any quality to the leadership of this country. For instance, we discussed those, broke them down, the proposals, having the deputy speaker position be ring-fenced for the opposition. I mean, that's a foolhardy. It doesn't work in this kind of democracy in Uganda, the kind of governance in Uganda. You do not say that the leader of opposition should be elected. And there are very many
opposition MPs, because he feels that the other opposition political parties probably are left out, and it is the big man.
They should just fight hard to become the leaders of opposition, to have the majority numbers in parliament. I mean, that's how it is. That's why President Museveni sits.
It's a battle of numbers.
Yes, President Museveni sits and says, I have appointed my leader of business government in parliament. And you endorse them. You get? He appoints ministers, and we only endorse them. You get? And that's so in Lumu's bill, he falls short of skill in interpreting the law. And he's such an affluent lawyer, for God's sake. And we do not see that coming out of this proposal that he brings.
Okay.
For instance, he should have also said that, for instance, the president has a lot of powers. He should delegate some of these powers to parliament to appoint, to elect the prime minister, that the people come up and say we want to be prime minister. They are endorsed and elected just like the speaker
Maybe
is.
that would go into constitutional reforms, and he was particularly looking at administration.
Even this pushes us into constitutional reforms.
Yes.
And if we looked deeper into it. So, again, I don't mince my words.
Still bad.
I feel this was a quarrel, this was a tantrum, and it's headed nowhere.
All right, thank you very much. Charity, quarrel, tantrum, whatever it may be, it looks like all the other political parties are saying, not at all. One would have probably even expected the ruling party to say maybe it's a very welcome. But they've also come out, stand and said, if we have this bill passed, we are weakening more and more the opposition, because there could be some influence from other political parties. What went wrong in the proposals? Is it the proposals? Is it the spirit of the bill? Is it the person who is presenting it? Is it the timing, as many have analyzed?
It is the spirit of the bill.
Okay.
So the spirit of the bill is evil.
Evil spirit.
Yes, it's not a good spirit.
Okay.
So you see, when the 1995 Constitution was being constituted, there was a spirit.
Yeah.
And it was a good spirit. The spirit behind the 1995 Constitution was that never again do we want to go back into war. We are done. We've seen enough bloodshed. That was the spirit. And the spirit was, we need to be united as a people in Uganda. That is a good spirit. But now see how evil Lumu's spirit is. So the Constitution in Article 79 is clear. Parliament is supposed to make laws for peace, for development, for good governance. Now, if you look at the bill that Lumu is purporting to put before Parliament, It's not going to promote good governance in any way.
Why so?
Because good governance is tagged on democratic practices. So he says, oh, it is good to elect until you even elect.
So isn't it democratic? Tell me it is Charity, Alex, and Kenneth who want to be leaders of opposition. We all vote.
Democracy has principles that cannot be tinkered with. And what Lumu is doing right now is to tinker with democratic principles.
Okay.
He's using the law to tinker with democratic principles, which is very wrong. And why I said that the spirit was wrong, the spirit is evil. They are fighting Joel Senyonyi, an individual.
When you said they, who?
They who have propagated this bill, whoever he's with, Lumu and Cohort. I don't know the other members of the cohort, but Lumu and cohort.com. Now, that fight of an individual turned into a law becomes a terrible precedent for a country. When you make laws, they're supposed to govern a whole spectrum of people, not individuals. If I am upset with you, I don't come up with a law to manage you, Mildred. No. Laws are not made to manage individuals. Laws are made to run society. Yeah. Laws are made in the interest of justice. That is it. Bottom line, key principles of law. It is interest of justice, fairness, equality. Those are principles of law. If you begin to tinker with those principles, then you are an evil spirit. And that is what Lumu's bill is.
So it's time to exercise the spirit?
Yeah, we better throw that spirit in the dustbin. This is hot air. He has given us a hot air bill.
Okay.
You know, Kenneth is the one who knows about hot air when you are selling nothing.
Yeah.
This is what he's doing. Now, this bill, in its entirety, like my colleagues have told you, will weaken the opposition. We as a country decided to go for a multi-party dispensation. We had a referendum. Ugandans decided for themselves. They wanted what? Multi-party. But why do we even talk about opposition? Why is opposition supposed to be there? Why is it important? Opposition helps to keep government in check.
In check.
Opposition is the alternative voice. Opposition pushes for accountability. Opposition is supposed to give us alternative policy. If government came up with a policy that is not working, the opposition helps us to see whether that policy is working or it's not working. Yesterday alone, Joel Senyonyi was able to tell us about 55 billion, which has gone, 553 billion, which has gone missing, and is calling for accountability. Now, there is no way he can do that if he did not exist as a leader of opposition. That is what opposition does. It picks up things that have been put in budgets that other people might not have paid attention to and makes the public now know about it. Lubowa Hospital, would we have known about Lubowa? The other day, somebody drove me past Lubowa and said, do you see those mabati? That's where the money is being sunk. I said, where? Inside those mabati. That is the famous Lubowa Hospital. Now, we would never have known that had it not been the opposition. The opposition has opened our eyes even to the coffee. The issues around coffee right now.
One would say it's because of the constitutional institutions, because even the Auditor General's office has clearly come out on many of these issues, and the opposition committees that are really looking about accountability committees just expound more on them. Which is okay, but the Auditor General's report, if it was picked, covered, and put inside the shelf, of what interest would it be to us? Yeah, sure. So you need a voice. And the voice is being the opposition. So you need to look at the functionality of the opposition to understand why we still need them there and why you should not fight. But Lumu's bill is not saying opposition is going away in any sense. Lumu's bill is saying the opposition should be weakened to the extent of being buried. It is simple. Okay.
Lumu's bill is saying, can we bury every opposition in this country?
The bill is digging a grave already?
Clear. It's only waiting to put the last nail on the coffin and they bury the opposition. The opposition is weak. And then you're saying whoever comes out as a leader, a leading political party, cannot take up. Why? FDC played their role here in that 10th parliament, in the 9th parliament, and they did a good job. These young people are in right now, the National Unity Platform. Who knows? Tomorrow there might be another political party which takes over as the leading political party and does a better job than the National Unity Platform has done. So you cannot begin to victimize a political party that came as the lead political party. The best Lumu would have done is maybe to start a political party of his own. But this is my last call. The voters of Mityana North, 2026 is coming. Please don't leave Lumu there. Just listen to Charity. Get
you have started
rid
your campaign
of people who put us
before elections
in spots where we have empty shells for bills.
All right. I hope you will not be sued pretty soon. There is evidence. We'll provide this particular clip to court. Take it.
Charity, before
she's
the
protected by
Mityana North sues you. Actually, Lumu is from Mityana South.
Oh, he's Mityana South.
South.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. But Kenneth, the bill is
I've just called on the voters to
of
do,
the North.
Yes, of the
North.
South. Okay, now the South should do the necessary thing.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I have the clip. Our producer will produce it if Mr. Lumu wants it in court.
What does he want it for? For what? These are voters.
Let's just continue with this conversation. It seems, do you think this is a stillbirth for Lumu's bill? Why does it seem very controversial, even in the eyes of all the political parties? Actually, none of those that have gone through have actually been able to support any of these proposals.
Let me begin like this. For me, that bill was as shabby, as disorganized, just like the mover from the start. Let me paint for you my picture. When Honorable Lumu was given leave to actually come up with this proposal, he was sought after by different media houses. And as a host of a show, I actually wanted to have him to expound much more on these issues. The day I wanted to host him, I learned that KFM had actually invited him for a similar engagement. So we agreed on another date, which would be 2 days later. On that very day, I waited for Honorable Lumu. He was my only one guest for purposes of giving him enough time to actually expound on these issues. I talked to him in the morning, the very day. He confirmed he will come for the show. I sent him a WhatsApp message. He asked me what are some of the questions we are likely to discuss. I shared with him. He said I will be there. 15 minutes to the show, I called him and he told me he was in the jam. I waited for Honorable Lumu. He didn't show up. Till today. It's that day that I learned he didn't show up for the KFM show. He didn't. And then it's the very day that I learned that as I was announcing to the listeners that Honorable Lumu was expected to come in studio, Radio Simba was announcing him at the same time. So for me, that clearly shows you the kind of person whom the bill. And I heard you saying he was an affluent lawyer. For the time I've been a journalist, which is close over 1 decade or so, I have never had him in a landmark case. I've never known about him. I only heard about him when that bill was actually when he sought leave in Gulu. But let's go in principle. In principle, the idea would be to carry out a reform. Normally, when you're doing a reform into a law, you're seeking to address an issue, maybe a lacuna, something that was not envisaged at the time the law was being framed, and you want to deal with it. But also, secondly, you want to address a problem that has emerged. Maybe some level of a fallout, and you think there is need to actually address it. For starters, I didn't see the lacuna in the current arrangement where the leader of opposition is appointed or the shadow cabinet is appointed. Actually, the current setup says when the leader of opposition is constituting the shadow cabinet, they can do so in a consultative manner. That's why you see other members of other political parties joining the shadow cabinet. So there's a consultative process. The most popular issue around the leader of opposition that I knew about, which I think Lumu ought to have brought forward, was the idea of the opposition leader with a majority in parliament, having been a presidential candidate, becoming a member of parliament to address what had sort of emerged during the FDC time, that the headquarter is saying something else and the leader of opposition in parliament is doing something else. So there was a discussion and a proposal that maybe in future we should amend the law so that the runner-up or the party with the majority on the opposition side, their leader who was a presidential candidate automatically becomes a member of parliament. That was the popular argument that I had at that particular time. But where things are, I think this bill represented simply a fight, an attempt to, you know, destabilize the opposition in the House. Of course, we know the background to it. Joel Senyonyi has been talking about the things, how he does not see eye to eye with some people who want him to do certain things, and he has insisted that he will not do it.
Yeah.
Of course, we know when they went to Gulu, the idea was that nothing else will be on the order paper apart from issues to do with the region. All of a sudden, the issue, while the rules allow the speaker to amend the order paper, but it was a surprise to all manner of people. And what even brings in a bigger issue is the fact that there are other MPs who have sought leave from the House to make proposals that are seemingly, you know, popular. Not only popular, but justifiable, looking at the attempts to carry out constitutional and electoral reforms in the past. And they have been denied its space. You remember when the Lumu's bill was going for the second reading, this issue was raised in the House. We saw the Honorable Sechikubos, Honorable Allions, Honorable Wilfred Nwagaba. They were all saying, we have been seeking, we have written to your office, Madam Speaker, we want to seek leave to bring proposals, but we are not being allowed. How come this person's bill is moving so fast? So in that midst of all this, you can see there is a power behind that bill. And therefore, I think, like Charity has said, there is an attempt to fight the National Unity Platform because there is a belief that you disorganize them in the House, they will not be able to do certain things. And therefore, that brings in that issue. The others, if you followed closely the submissions that the opposition political parties brought in the House, if Honorable Lumu had brought bills to do with improving the electoral process, he would have been supported. He would be the darling of so many people. And I'm sure even the other opposition members would have come to the House and submitted in that direction. But now we have lost a lot of time.
Okay.
But having said all that, when you're discussing the positions that are taken by Parliament, you need to do so with, you know, some bit of hesitation and caution, because, you know, these are sentiments that are coming out from the Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee. So it's very important to wait and see what kind of report they are likely to submit in the House. Secondly, the movers and shakers, are they likely to sway that House? Okay. You know what I mean. So many things happen in that House sometimes. He means
those are the movers.
I don't have to say things. So don't be shocked when that report comes to the House and all the submissions made in the House have been changed.
Are totally different.
And then the numbers.
The nays and
the numbers. Because we have been told that there is somebody who controls that House by simply moving the stick to one direction and they all go to this side. So I will watch closely to see what will happen.
So you are not yet dismissing this bill?
I'm dismissing the bill in its entirety, its
but
content.
I mean its longevity, its life.
But I'm proceeding with caution because that Parliament, if you remember Toji Kwatako, people went to constituencies and they were being chased. We saw them. But when they went to the House, they were saying, I vote yes. Totally against the wishes of their voters.
All right, thank you very much.
So I may not be surprised when that happens.
Alex, dead on arrival, or you also have a pinch of salt?
No, of course, the summary of this is that if you sponsor a law, it should be to empower certain principles. But if you sponsor a law to curtail, in this case, to undermine the spirit of competitiveness within the multi-party dispensation, then I did not have this background. I must thank Kenneth Lukwago
the movers and shakers
and the others. I did not have this background about the personality of the sponsor of the bill.
Okay.
But when you look at that background,
so do you see a future as well? There could be some future? No future at all.
No.
Derek, a future or no future for this bill?
What we are talking about here is the ideal situation. I don't know whether we are in an ideal situation in this country. We are
so
talking
you also
about
have a pinch
ideals.
of salt, like, yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, we've seen so many things. We all speak ideals and things like that. And Lumo did not just wake up to bring up this bill.
I want to
He
believe
has
so.
people who are backing him. And who knows they are the decision makers in Parliament.
Okay.
So when Zake is going to be chased from Parliament, just know he's just going to be chased. Nothing that can change. There is nothing that can change
when
that.
When Lumu's bill is coming,
when
you
Lumu's
can't be
bill
sure?
is coming, you know that it will pass when they want it to pass.
Okay.
Me and you, our feelings and our gut doesn't
do not matter.
matter.
Charity, dead on arrival already, or you have a pinch of salt, like Kenneth said?
You know, for
As
me,
we
it's not
conclude this.
about dead on arrival or pinch of salt. What it is that should that bill pass, it will pass a bad precedent, okay? And I talked about governance. When we think about governance, it is broader than just sentimental.
Okay.
Institutions are built for reasons. Standards are set for reasons. And I say these things because I am convinced that except we have strong institutions to bequeath to the next leaders, to the next generation, then you will have shambles back here.
Okay.
So this bill, if it passes, will have set a bad precedent, but it will be saying, for us, we can pass what we want to pass, and we can amend it backwards. Because like term limits was taken out, and now you're seeing Mpuga saying,
let's get them back.
Return them.
Okay. So bad precedent, it's only a matter of time, and we'll be here to give you the evolvement of this particular bill. But as is all the political parties actually have said, it is not something that we are welcoming. Let's take a very short commercial break. When we return, we'll be switching gears to forced guilty pleas that have been making rounds in the news this particular week. Let's get back. All right, welcome back, and thank you so much for keeping it NBS Television. This is the Morning Breeze, your most authoritative morning current affairs show. And on Friday, it is always the media roundtable as journalists and their perspective make sense of the stories that have made headlines. One of the bigger stories that has come through this particular week, and I'll give you some of these tweets. My producer will be able to display those. The Secretary General of the National Unity Platform, David Lewis Rubongoya, together with the principal of the party, said that Minister Balaam Barugahara Atenyi allegedly asked the NUP supporters who are still incarcerated to plead guilty so they could either get lighter sentences or be pardoned. And in a particular tweet by Bobby Wine or Chagulanyi, he said he even visited on a non-visiting day, which was a Saturday. But while speaking to Honorable Balaam Barugahara, asking him about those, he claimed this was blackmail. He claimed that he did not ask them to plead guilty at all, but was willing to fight for their freedom. Now, there is a lot of tinge and conversation in this story, but Kenneth, I want to start off with you. What did you get in this conversation? What does it lead to? But also, what does it mean for justice? Because the law takes a particular course. Even if there is to be either plea bargain or alternative dispute resolution, there is a clear passage that has to be taken. Or are we only simply looking at politicking at this point in time?
Well, I think this is an issue where political scores are trying to be, you know, settled in the wrong setting. The reason I'm saying the wrong setting, because this issue of trying civilians in a military court-martial is still something that looks so funny. Even if those people were found with certain exhibits that show that maybe they were engaged in a certain issue, they could still be tried in a civilian court. So for me, I still find that situation really very disturbing. Now, these guys have been in jail for the last 4 years, and they have repeatedly said they never committed those offenses. By the way, majority of those people are in jail because of a single magazine, which was allegedly found with them. And so many people have been questioning that piece of evidence and saying, how could those so many people be attached to a single magazine, which was actually used as an exhibit in that particular court? So for me, I think their arrest and detention and the trial has simply been an issue of politics, trying to send a signal to the would-be support base of NUP that something like this ought to be done. You'll agree with me, at the time those people were actually picked, you could clearly see the kind of, you know, bravado and, you know, pressure and enthusiasm that was taking shape within the party, the kind of activities that were going on within the party, partly in which those people are in jail actually contributed. So you find that situation very disturbing. Secondly, you remember when Balaam was appointed minister, his first statement in the House was basically about those people. There are so many things that youth and children in this country are facing. We know issues of teenage pregnancy. We know issues of unemployment and so many other issues, dropouts. But Balaam strategically chose to speak about the plight of those NUP people who are in jail, and he said he will do everything possible in his position to actually get them out. Now, the idea of having them pleading guilty now can be looked at in two ways. One, because the criminal justice system will suggest that for you to actually be pardoned, having been arraigned in court, you should be convicted first, and then there's a prerogative of mercy from the president, which can be used to get you out of jail. Because it will look shabby and shameful for you to drop the charges now after keeping these people in jail for over 4 years. You get it? It will clearly create that picture, or it will clearly justify the arguments that have been made that this is a political witch hunt. So you try to find a way of doing it. But then also, secondly, if they plead guilty, do they understand the repercussions? Because you can actually plead guilty and then they sentence you to the maximum following the law. But then it also, you know what, falls back to the political party. It simply means that your political party from where you're coming is part and parcel of the problem that you have created. So I think that's why you're seeing this uproar. But also this idea of Balaam visiting NUP people in jail, it's a little bit...
He said that his constituencies, the Minister of Youth, these are youth.
It's a contradiction.
And he visited them like a government official.
They are under trial in court. This is a trial. This is a legal matter. It's not about, is he going to ask them whether
they're in prison. Don't you visit prisoners?
You visit people that you have an attachment to.
Oh. He says his attachment.
What is his attachment?
He says his attachment is because he's a minister for youth and these are young people.
I don't think there are so many young people who are in jail.
Yeah.
Why hasn't he visited them?
He said he started with these ones.
No, I don't think that is the intention. The intention was clearly to go and try
to do something else.
To tell these people, Mzee Agambye, Nkolewe MT, this is what we want. And I think that's exactly the point. And I think he's trying his level best to be able to bargain and strengthen his position and create that, you know, that feeling that probably he has done a thing or so, you know, because the strategy, at the end of the day, the strategy is to weaken the NUP party.
Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
And therefore, I really find it hard. I really find it hard to believe that these people are suddenly
guilty
after all these years.
All right, Alex. Is it just political ping pong? He says, I am visiting because I am a minister. These people fall under my docket in a productive age. I would like to help them. But Nupi is saying you're first of all visiting on a day that is not it. And we've talked to these people and they've said you asked them to plead guilty. And he is saying, I didn't do such a thing. It's blackmail. Are we in just a political ping pong?
If you can just allow me, you know, there is a narrative that has already been created and people are saying that, look, this is a political matter. Some political issues are settled through talks. And they have been telling Kyagulanyi that, look, you are out here enjoying yourself.
He claimed that that is how Kyagulanyi also got his freedom.
That's how Kyagulanyi got his freedom. That's the claim. But you see, the NUP people have insisted, if there is evidence against these people,
prosecute them.
Prosecute them to the fullest. And I think that should have been the issue. If there is evidence, if they are guilty, why is it that the prosecution in the court has not put them in that corner?
All right, thank you.
To
Alex,
prove their case.
Question, thank you, Mildred. For me, the principle is so important. You cannot criminalize political activity. And that has been the issue, that the trial of these guys is political trial. You have criminalized and even militarized it. They are being tried in the military court. At least people are being tried in the criminal court, in the civil court. But back to your question, is it political ping pong? You see the intentions of Baram, whatever he wants to achieve, will absolutely be questioned because why would he be interceding, interfering, and taking advantage of people who have been in jail for 4 years to, first of all, plead guilty? And you know the consequences can be grave for these guys. First of all, they have been in jail for such a long time. Secondly, they have been taken advantage of. Because somebody has been in jail 4 years, can be taken advantage of. Number three, now, as Kenneth said, the court can actually sentence them to death, to those big sentences. So I think for me, the principles of, especially the principles of criminal justice, they have been interfered with, and the matter is, Baram actually confirmed that all along, the matter has been political. It has not been a fair criminal trial.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Charity, in your view, because this leaves a bad taste, like Kenneth was saying, and this is what I put to the minister, and I said, if it is a criminal case and there is evidence, there is a clear procedure, or even if alternative dispute resolution is what is to be taken, there is a clear legal procedures through which you get alternative dispute resolution? Is it what you are taking on? And it seems a little bit different. It seemed like it was allegation upon allegation. This one denies, the other accepts. But what does this show? What does it mean, especially in a time of these being civilians tried in the military court-martial against a constitutional ruling of civilians should not be unless subjected after having subjected themselves to military, you know?
So I want to associate myself with all the views that Kenneth has put forward because they are succinct. Kenneth has told us that if they plead guilty, it has implications, and I agree 100%. Because when you plead guilty, it's no guarantee that you're walking out of there scot-free. But
whether innocent or actually guilty.
Yes.
Yeah.
The criminal justice system, which everybody has alluded to here, presumes one innocent until proven
guilty.
And that is Article 28, the right to a fair hearing. So it is a human rights issue. There are people out there who like going on Twitter. By the way, this time let me also lash them out now that I am on air. They like going on Twitter to put out mediocre views because you're just following. So what is human rights? We just eat human rights and whatever. Human rights are there because one day they might help you. You who likes tweeting hopeless things. They might help you just when you have nowhere to turn. We have a Bill of Rights in our Constitution, and the reason why that Bill of Rights is situated there is because it is in tandem with the Universal Declaration for Human Rights, for which Uganda is a signatory. Now let me start to school tweeters of TV stations, because I see their tweets, and when I see hopeless tweets, I just look once and I know empty head, I leave it there. But today let me school some people that we have that Bill of Rights for a reason. The reason is our criminal justice system must dispense justice. We are saying that if you are held, and this is arbitrary arrest, this is where it falls now. If you are held, you're supposed to be produced in court after 48 hours. These people were produced?
Actually within that specific period.
And then how many times have they been produced after that? Why haven't their cases been heard and dispensed of, or why aren't they continuing to hear them? Why would people be locked up for 4 years in a country that says they uphold human rights, and in a country whose constitution is in tandem with universal instruments that talk about these human rights? When you talk about civil and political rights, you again hinged on those very rights that the Constitution guarantees for these people. So the first things first, before they can even plead guilty or play into the politics, and I can give you a historical perspective of why the politics can never go away from legality. If you look at the period of 1966, it was a period when the army of Amin stormed the Lubiri. 1966.
Okay.
Amin was the commander.
Oh, the commander. Oh, that's why you say the army of Amin. Yes, please.
He was the commander.
Okay.
It was Obote's government, but Amin.
But Amin was the commander, okay.
And that sent us on...
Maybe she's rephrasing the current situation where
No, I was referencing.
I'm not
referencing. Why I was saying,
please don't
I know the government in power then was different.
Don't start dragging me into what it is. But I am referencing the real time.
Okay.
What is historically written. And from that time, we had politics twinged with the law.
With the law.
But before Amin even did that, we had a man who I like referring to, and I say every day his ghost has refused to go away from Uganda and will stay forever. That man is called Expert Matovu. Anyone who understands the case of Expert Matovu, it is to the extent that a political question was being resolved by court. And the question was, can court really resolve a political question?
Yeah.
And it didn't actually amount to the fact that court could resolve this political question. And so we continue to have politics that cannot be resolved in court. Because political powers influence legality. The two work alongside each other. But in the strict sense of the law, those people who are locked up deserve justice. And this is a human right violation. It's a violation of their rights, and it must be expedited. It must be handled at the quickest way possible to dispense justice for them. Back to the question of institutions. Is there an institution that can guarantee freedom for anyone without you knowing anybody, without you having some people pleading for you politically, but you appear, your case is listened to, you are tried, and the judge makes a decision based on the evidence that is being tendered in court? My plea to the government is that let us stand with our document, which is the 1995 Republic of Uganda Constitution as amended in October.
All right, thank you very much. A good plea. I hope it falls on fertile ground. And Derek, as we take a break, you will be having your say on these allegations, accusations, and counter-accusations.
This group of people were arrested in early May 2021.
Yeah.
At the time they were arrested, many of them had gone at court-martial to stand either surety or to show, to support the then prisoners, the group that was led by Nubian Lee, Eddie Mutwe, who were arrested in Kalangala. Actually, on that day when they were arrested in Kalangala in 2020, December 31st, I was among those that were arrested. And they were they were all charged in the military court. So on that day, they had gone to, show solidarity and some of them to stand surety for those people. And the other ones were also being charged almost they were always, they had the same charge with these ones. The other ones had 4 bullets, these ones have a magazine. So the other ones were 32. They had 4 bullets that they were exchanging, and that's what they were being charged in the military court with. And these ones had a magazine, which they were exchanging, 15 of them, and that's what they're being charged. So it's similar circumstances under which they were arrested. And since then, this case has dragged on without trial, which is already a bad one. But again, like Kenneth says, it's even a bad picture for us to be talking about such civilians being tried in a military court, which military court has also been having very many questions of its establishment. A military court, that particular one is supposed to be maybe just a disciplinary court for the army. It's a reserve for the army and any armed officers. But these are young civilians who are Ugandans, and they're being tried in that court, which leaves so many questions. I wanted to give this background because when I was listening to the minister, Balaam, I saw the kind of ministers that President Museveni has, and I cried for my country because we do not have, coming to on television to confess that you have gone to meet these people such that you can help them get their freedom. Who gives freedom in this country? Isn't it court? Is it a minister? Mm-hmm. So you, Balaam.
He wants to facilitate.
Facilitate how? Don't we have courts? Don't we have competent courts? And for me, I feel the Uganda Law Society should jump into this matter, like with all the speed that needs.
Okay.
Because you get like, you come on television, national television, without respect for jurisprudence. You come and tell us, for me, I was helping these people to get their justice. Who are you? Are you a lawyer?
Mm-hmm. Minister for Youth.
Minister for Youth.
Affairs.
Minister for Youth. Does the Minister for Youth have their Are they supposed to work in court?
Are they officers of
Are
court?
they officers of court? This is a matter before court. So the judges of this country have been undermined to that level that they do not hold any power in this country. They cannot execute any case before them. It takes a minister's intervention for people to get their freedom. Is that what we are doing in this country? Because these people are criminals per what the state says.
Yeah.
And only the court, lawyers, and the state attorneys are supposed to prove them guilty
Or innocent.
not Minister Balaam. You get?
Okay.
It's that annoying.
So
It's
politics,
that annoying.
politics and, like
Please.
Charity says, separating politics from the legality becomes a little bit hard.
No. It doesn't have to be hard in an organized society. Politics has its place, and the law has its place.
Okay.
And they have to play in tandem with each other. There is no confusion.
Okay.
Here, we are just playing like kids who are in the garden and we are trying to dig a garden. We're expecting that we are going to get cassava, and yet we are uprooting the cassava. I mean, like, it's a lot of confusion. So, for me, I feel these people have played to the gallery of politics. And the card that is being sold to the public is, if it were you having spent 4 years in court, and then someone is telling you that if you plead guilty, you'll be released. How sure are you that you're going to be released in the first place?
You can
Two.
be sentenced to maximum.
Two, even the court in itself,
criminal justice.
even the court in itself is standing on the pedestal of breaking their own legal grounds. Because these people can come and say, after us we pleaded guilty after being coerced. That's a very
Under
big...
duress.
You know, we were under duress. That's a very big pronouncement in court.
Yes.
And these people can come out and say that.
But you see, there's a television station that ran a story in reaction to what is going on. And they sort of were profiling the parents of these people who are in jail. And there's one particular woman who is working around Arua Park who said, on my previous visit to my son in jail, he actually told me that they had told them to confess and seek and make an apology. Then they will be released. So I actually watched that video on TikTok this morning, and I was like, what? So,
you know,
but also
it clearly fits in.
I think it also happened in court that one of the
One
guys
of them actually
shouted.
also said he had been asked
by Balaam
to confess, and when he inquired how that works, the minister called the judge.
You see, it's that disturbing.
So it
that,
is
that
some of the
judges-
background stories are absolutely
that
disturbing.
judges in this country are failing to even uphold their own positions as judges.
Okay.
Lawyers
Mildred,
and law
I think
practitioners,
the message that
legal practitioners.
I
feel
the message that we should just actually send across is
And the headway for this.
when you arrest somebody and you have evidence and you have taken them into court.
Even when you don't have evidence,
the
investigate
Constitution
and
envisages
produce.
that there should be a speedy trial.
yes.
You can't be holding people for 4 years. 4 years.
I had
And you have evidence. And the court is... But so what is the court doing?
All right, thank you. I will give you 30 seconds to conclude that before we take a break. Yes.
I had Balaam lying to a whole nation about the case of Kyagulanyi. We all followed the case of Kyagulanyi in Gulu. They presented, they said they had caught Kyagulanyi with guns.
With guns, yes.
Kyagulanyi was presented in court and they told them to bring the guns. Did they bring the guns? No. Where did they disappear to?
And there were so many guns.
And there were so many
according
guns.
to what
And
we-
a tank, by the way, and very many rounds of ammunition, live ammunition, that were found in Kyagulanyi's room. When he was in court, there was nothing that was presented. These people have evidence that the 15, led by Olivia Lutaya, had a magazine. I mean, that is very easy. Bring it, prosecute the people, convict them, let them serve their sentence. It doesn't have to be
settlement.
Okay. It doesn't have to be Balaam coming to tell us that for me, I'm fighting for these people's freedom. You're fighting for those people's freedom as a whole.
As a minister,
and also with the fingerprinting of all guns.
Yeah,
you know, of course, when they are brought there, they have to be taken through the maximum.
Whose bullets were those?
You know whose bullets, who touched what? They say this is your DNA is formed on this gun.
So it's politics in legal. It's politics in the law, and that is what is coming through. But well, we'll keep you here, and we'll keep analyzing some of these stories based on what does come through. We need to take a very short breather, and we'll return to wrap up this conversation. All right, very good morning to you once again, and thank you so much for keeping it NBS Television. It's the Morning Breeze, your most authoritative morning current affairs show, and this is the Media Roundtable. As we mention the stories that made headlines this week, particularly we'll be delving into Kenya, because as we conclude the conversations here back in Kenya, precedents are being set. At least as is, the Kenyan constitution has been tested. The 2010 Kenyan constitution, as amended, has been tested as Rigathi Gachagua becomes the first deputy president to be taken out of office in that manner. And according to the law, it is that he cannot stand for office at least for the next 10 years. Only if he had been able to resign, he would have that luxury. He had tried at blocking the conversation in the Senate, but the High Court judge said it was constitutional and that it could go ahead. The leeway he has right now is probably to go and appeal against this impeachment after an earlier overwhelming majority vote for his impeachment, also in the Constitutional Assembly. What lessons are being taken, and what does this mean for Kenya, definitely ahead of 2027? Because many have said Rigathi will not go down without a fight. Alex, you've been paying attention to this. In just a few, the Constitution has clearly now been tested. What does this mean?
No, apart from just paying attention, you know, I have worked in Kenya also for the Nation Media Group. And the events happening in Kenya, I normally watch Ugandan commentators talking about Kenyan politics and everything. They don't normally tend to understand the context of the Kenyan politics. Number one, the Kenyan democracy is absolutely different. It has similarities with the kind of democratic structures, dispensations with other countries in the region, but it's absolutely different. And number two is that the Kenyan politics is business. Business is number one. When you look at what is happening now, is that these people, when it comes to elections, they will normally disagree. Friends, you'll find friends at each other. When you look at the last election cycle that brought in the Gachaguas, Ruto was with the boss then, Uhuru.
Uhuru. Yeah.
Then Uhuru decided to collaborate with Raila Odinga, and then Ruto had to find a way around it. And Gachagua was the most radicalized voice against the Odingas and the Uhurus. But now, you know, he has been cooked, and Ruto is back with Odinga, and that's how Gachagua finds himself out. I think it will have serious implications on the next election cycle. It has absolutely
he can't be able to campaign.
Serious implications for Ruto. It might either make or break him. This might either make, if the Railas decide to continue with that collaboration, maybe it will make him. But if the Railas have another trump card and they are going to bring either another candidate, I don't know if Raila will I don't think Raila will run
He
again.
may, only if he doesn't win the AU bid,
Yeah,
but he's
so,
vouching for the AU bid.
I think Ruto is trying to play his cards, but this might, it's not over. It's not
Okay.
over. Gachagua might be out, but it's not over. It might either break or make Ruto's re-election bid.
Much better. Kenneth, the carpet has been pulled under Gachagua, and currently, as is, unless maybe courts of law get to say otherwise, he could be called former deputy president of Kenya. But does this have a big implication on the politics, especially of his current boss, the person who's been working with, that he actually apologized to and said, if at all I wronged someone in any way, and the apology came in?
Well, for me, Alex raises a very important issue, trying to understand the politics of Kenya. And sometimes there are certain things that happen, and back here at home, we are so happy and we celebrate the progress that is being done in Kenya. This politics of, alliances sometimes comes with those kind of situations. Marriage, it's like a marriage of convenience. Because, you see, the Kenyan constitution, the setup, having a deputy president, I'm thinking when you're picking somebody to run with, you should be able to understand that kind of person conclusively and even do a background check. And you must get that person who is loyal, somebody who's likely not to use the little power that has fallen onto them, if I may use that word, to also start, nurturing their political ambitions and planning things here and there. So I think that's the situation that Ruto finds himself in, that I think he picked on somebody who had ambition beyond being deputy president.
But wasn't it the same? Isn't it just history repeating itself?
That's what I'm saying, the Kenyan constitution set up. And I would argue and say Ruto should have learned from what he did to Uhuru, because he should have been able to gauge and say, what kind of person am I getting onto the ticket?
But it also is a question of what value does this person
what
add
value,
to,
exactly, what I'm saying, the marriage of convenience, where you start looking at the numbers. If I appoint somebody from Mount Elgon area, these are the numbers this person is likely to come with. And you can already see the narrative. The people from Gachagua's area are already saying, now that this one has left, we want this one to be the one to replace. Because it's about sitting on a map and saying, tribe A, if we unite with tribe B, this is likely to be the outcome. And I think that is eventually, that tribal card in the Kenyan politics will eventually boil into something, if it hasn't already done so, because we know the talk between the Luo and the Kikuyus and the things like that. So for me, that kind of situation is likely to cause more problems.
Ruto believed that
future.
That had been broken.
He believed so, but it's now playing out. Case. Now, I'm also surprised that
as you conclude,
the only issue that surprised me was the Senate going ahead with the impeachment process, even without the man being accused defending himself. Because I mean, they could have.
No, his lawyers were present.
His lawyers were present,
ill.
but they
he
said,
was reported ill, and his
yes,
lawyers
and
were
the lawyers
present.
were there, and they said we cannot proceed here because we have not gotten instructions from the person who is in hospital.
But he had 11 cases, and the Senate had the right to impeach him if only he had one case for which he was guilty, and at least as at the impeachment, he had 4 cases.
The process envisages that he had the right to be heard. And I think that's the point that he's going to take to the court and say, I became sick. So they will ask him for the medical documents. He will put them there and say, I was not given an opportunity, despite my legal team telling the House that I had been hospitalized. So
Okay.
I think
Thank
that
you.
is the only area that I see a
But,
problem.
but don't you still think, but even if it is technical, do you think it would still
yeah.
save him? That is why I would ask Charity, even if it was technical, would it still be able to save him?
But I think there was there must have been an issue of illness, because I told you he got
Yeah, sure.
he got
It was
chest
reported.
pains, taken to the hospital, and the doctors in the hospital were saying he had a heart problem. Surely there should have been.
They should have waited.
Yeah, much as you are using this speed.
The catapult,
To,
you want to shoot.
to get rid of the guy. At the end of the day, there should be some human element to try and understand, because the process he's going through is not easy.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kenneth. The Senate had up to 10 days. They had a leeway of 10 days. They had had this conversation for 2 days. How does this end in Kenya?
So that Senate also was able to illustrate articles within their constitution that they were saying had been violated by Rigathi and his activities. And they said there was 10, there was 27, there was 73, and several others. Now, as to whether the court will save him is not the important issue to ask. The thing with, when I said justice, a justice system envisages that fair hearing.
Fairness.
Whether you're guilty or not guilty, you should be given a chance to say your part. For you, what did you do? That it's just a basic principle in law, that even the other person has something to say. You're accusing me, yes, but for me, this is it. It happens to us daily on the road when the traffic official gets you and sometimes you're guilty. You stand with the man and say, sir, Afande, I'm honestly sorry because this is what has happened. Like this. Those who are kind will let you go. Those who are not will give you the ticket to pay. But that is it, that there is a chance for you to speak about the issue that that is beforehand. So in all fairness, he should be given a chance to be heard. Whether it will save him or not, it will not save him. To not save him because the lower house overwhelmingly voted that he should leave.
But the Senate could have saved him if there were numbers to say no.
Yeah, but you see also the Senate seemed to follow what was below in the lower house. And if you look at what is happening in Kenya, there is now accusations of money having exchanged hands, very similar to things that have happened in Uganda. There are now accusations of changing of their constitution, something that they lost people over and had cases to answer in the ICC. They're now headed into amending that constitution. And I'm actually wondering, what has gone wrong with Kenya? You know, Kenneth has said here that when things happen there, we seem to say, oh, the democracy in Kenya is actually working. And I tell you, most of the people from the Western world went and pitched camp there. You see, for them, they like democratic processes and they like countries where they think there is peace, there is stability. So they pitched camp there. And actually, Kenya has been making a lot of inroads in trade, international places, and even inroads in terms of money, the dollars that are flowing.
Yeah. FDIs.
Yes, their foreign domestic investments have gone up because of that. But now look at them. The fools hardy. They are worse than us, actually, right now. If you look at what they are saying in terms of amending their constitution, in terms of what they have just gone through, of course, I don't think Rigathi was also a very good deputy president. Right from the start, they knew the kind of person he had been. He had played very bad politics.
Yeah, but the politics is not really of politics, but there is lots of other interests that come through, like you said.
But this politics of alliance, whose interest does it take? He seemed to have his personal interests that were superseding the interests of Kenyans. But I hope Kenyans are able to pull themselves together and realize that the trajectory they had taken of a good constitution and constitutional processes is what they should continue with. If they go by the things as they are, I want to agree with Alex that this is most likely going to break Ruto.
All right, thank you. Derek, you'll have the final one on Kenya. Someone always says we should shift Kenya to Uganda. What precedents are being set? What do we learn? What do we unlearn from what is happening in the country?
See, I am also Kenyan.
Yes, yes. By assimilation, we boxed them to Uganda.
I am also Kenyan.
Yes. Yes.
So matters that happen in Kenya touch me directly. You see, how does the relationship between Gachagua and William Samoei Ruto get onto the South was especially during the Maandamano, and the relationship got cut from there with accusations of sponsoring this and the other camp and stuff like that, and
corruption inclusive.
Corruption,
too.
of course. Yeah. Of course, this corruption. Let's not talk about corruption, because if we have to talk about the corruption in Kenya, the president should have left yesterday.
Okay.
Because he's more corrupt than anyone else.
He's not being impeached. It's Gachagua who is being impeached in this
case.
Yes.
So there are corruption cases, very many of them in Kenya.
Okay.
And very many of those officials have different cases in different courts, or even accusations and allegations. But when you break a relationship between the deputy and the president, then you know that that's the beginning point of breaking. I had William Ruto last week saying, "This man doesn't know me. Me, I was patient even when I was playing my games with Uhuru. He thinks that I was planning. This one doesn't plan." You get such sentimental statements that everything that is working, that is turning out right now in Kenya, is something that has been boiling over years. And probably it's not even going to end. Kenya is one country that you don't expect that you have an enemy in politics today and is the same enemy you have tomorrow. Yeah. Enemies and friends keep changing every other day. If you look at, for instance, Ruto has almost served in all governments of Kenya apart from the one of Arap Moi. He's been part of them, and yet at the same time he has been on the opposition. And that's how the politics of Kenya is. I saw when things started getting bad, Godfrey Rigathi Gachagua actually started moving across the country, campaigning that I'm going to come in 2027. You get? And a disgruntled William Ruto does not want that to happen. He will try to curb it with all his energy as soon as he can.
Yes.
And this impeachment is not by mistake, it's a planned one.
Of course.
And whether you ask whether court is going to stand on it or not, by the one of the things that I expect, that I have appreciated about Kenya is that Kenya is not just about one single person. The time we saw that that Uhuru Kenyatta would, in his first term, left State House and went to The Hague to be tried, and then came back. That is when you would hear the real democracy. I mean, people seem to think that democracy is all about common understanding.
Numbers.
Squabbles, these squabbles that are in Kenya are what grow a democracy.
Okay.
We saw that the moment William Ruto went into the cabinet of Uhuru Kenyatta, the past president, he then got those guts of becoming president. What did he do? He broke ranks with Uhuru Kenyatta. The same way that Gachagua was planning.
So it's history repeating itself.
History, but also just politics at play.
Okay.
Politics at play. And the people of Kenya are very interesting. They can wake up and tell you, we want, I mean, we want Rigathi.
Yes.
And no one will stop them.
But the law is clear.
The law, we are going to court. Everyone thinks that everything for Rigathi is done.
Is done. No, of course
we
he has
thought
the
the same when there was that, when in the stalemate of the second term of Uhuru, when there was a rerun. We thought that Uhuru is going to just sail through. How can they just say, they have announced the President Uhuru and then taken to court, and then the Supreme Court comes and announces itself against the sitting president.
Yes.
We thought, no. My friend, Kenya can disappoint you any day.
Thank you very much.
Don't think that because the president is so much enchanted that Rigathi should be thrown out, that's what the court is going to do. If Rigathi moves if he moves for court process to happen, it's going to be a different game. It's going to be a different game. It's going to be another, another game altogether, and we are going to watch. For us who eat popcorn, we're already holding our popcorn and we're seeing
and
how
we're
the
waiting.
game
We will definitely be here and watching through as the events unfold, and we'll definitely be bringing you all the analysis. But unfortunately, our time is fast spent and we need to say bye to you. Thank you very much, Charity. Thank you very much to you, Derek, and to Alex, as well as Kenneth. We're going for our tea. Kenneth is buying us our tea, and thank you so much for joining us. I am Mildred Twice. Good morning. God bless you.